No one knows where the Triffids came from. These mobile, carnivorous plants suddenly appeared on Earth one day and quickly proved deadly. Bill Mason's mother, a scientist who studied them, was one of their first victims. Now, Bill follows in her footsteps, working at a specialized Triffid breeding farm. These creatures produce a valuable oil that replaced fossil fuels, making them both dangerous and essential. Triffids feed on decaying meat and possess a venomous sting they can lash out from a distance. To keep them under control, farm workers trim their stings and wear protective gear during handling. Bill and his partner Lucy also discovered the Triffids respond to sound and may possess intelligence. This sparked public outcry from environmentalists who saw them as victims of exploitation. One day, an activist infiltrates the facility, intending to set the Triffids free. He's quickly intercepted by security, and in the chaos, Lucy is left without her protective glasses. Bill gives her his own to protect her, but in doing so, he's blinded by a Triffid sting. The activist is caught, and Lucy rushes Bill to a London clinic. That same day, journalist Joe Clayton interviews an astrophysicist who promises a global spectacle caused by a solar storm, a harmless but breathtaking light show. As night falls, skies around the world erupt in brilliant colors. Bill, bandaged in the clinic, is unaware that the light isn't harmless at all. Anyone who looks at it loses their sight, causing global panic. On a flight to London, everyone aboard is blinded except one man, Torrance, who had been sleeping with a mask over his face. The plane crashes in central London, and Torrance escapes alone. Bill wakes up in the clinic and, still blindfolded, stumbles into hallways filled with screams. When he removes the bandages, he realizes he can still see. He was spared by the Triffid sting-induced blindness, not the solar flare outside. The world is falling apart elsewhere. Jo survives the plane crash. At her radio station, as she ventures out, the blind begin to follow her. Desperate for guidance, she narrowly escapes a crowd and is stopped by a police officer trying to commandeer her car. Bill, nearby, intervenes and chases the man off. He and Jo team up, and Bill decides to return to the Triffid farm to check on the situation. Meanwhile, Torrance arms himself and finds shelter in a house back at the Triffid farm. Chaos has erupted. The power is out, the workers are blind, and the activist who caused Bill's injury has freed the plants. Morning reveals horrific scenes. The remains of workers savaged by Triffids. Bill and Jo arrive and discover Lucy's body. Bill grieves, while Jo accuses scientists of creating a monster. Bill defends the work, reminding her Triffids saved humanity from climate collapse. They plan to visit Jo's father at his house. Jo finds him already dead, dragged away by Triffids. She fires at one of them, but more approach. Bill pulls her to safety, and they flee from a bridge. They see wreckage stretching for miles, the collapse of civilization. Later, at the BBC building, they broadcast a warning. The Triffids are on the move. They kill with their venomous stings and make distinct ticking sounds that can help blind people avoid them. Bill also reveals there were 500 Triffid farms in Britain alone and millions more worldwide. Meanwhile, Torrance arrives at Downing Street, brushing past the blind Prime Minister's secretary and taking over the office as if he's in charge. He listens to the BBC broadcast while demanding breakfast. Bill and Jo see a signal from a university tower and drive toward it. Along the way, they meet Torrance again, who offers them a place in the new government he plans to build. They decline and continue on. At the university, they meet Coker, a sighted man leading a group of blind survivors. He pleads with government officials to take responsibility, but the military only accepts Bill and Jo. Coker takes his group elsewhere. Inside, the officials dismiss Bill's warnings about Triffids, unaware that the creatures are already on the loose. Their plan is to find a remote place to ride out the crisis. They won't help the blind. Disillusioned, Jo joins Bill as he prepares to go to his father's house for more research materials. But before they can leave, Coker's group storms the university for supplies and weapons. Bill is captured and assigned a blind mechanic to care for. Meanwhile, Jo recognizes Torrance among Coker's people. He admits Coker's plan to help the blind seems more just. The group moves to a makeshift shelter, and along the way, they stop at a bar where they're ambushed by Triffids. Many are killed in the aftermath. Coker finally realizes the threat Triffids pose. Bill, furious, demands better precautions. Jo convinces him they must leave immediately and fight for real solutions before the Triffids wipe out what's left of humanity. Back at Bill's father's house, the survivors regroup. Jo returns to the central bar where Coker's group had once sheltered and agrees to make a new radio broadcast soon. Her voice is heard over the airwaves, warning of the Triffid threat while encouraging any survivors to make their way to London. Meanwhile, Bill tries to leave the city but is pursued by Torrance's men. who are rounding up people to force into his growing militia. One of Torrance's enforcers shoots Bill in the shoulder and announces his arrest. Bill regains consciousness tied up in a truck beside another captive Coker. Torrance has declared them both expendable and plans to feed them to the Triffids. Joe, unaware of their fate, is moved into a luxurious room. Torrance falsely announces that Bill and Coker died heroically protecting civilians. Distraught, Joe begins to suspect the truth. In the woods, the truck carrying Bill and Coker stops. Coker manages to cut his ropes and frees Bill just as a guard orders them out at gunpoint, but before they can be executed, a Triffid emerges from the trees and drags the guard away. Chaos erupts. Coker fights the driver while more Triffids attack. One grabs Coker, but the injured Bill shoots it, saving his friend. The driver survives and forces the two to march toward the Triffids. Thinking quickly, Bill tosses a tape recorder behind them. The recorded Triffid sounds lure the creatures toward the driver, allowing Bill and Coker to escape. Their vehicle soon breaks down, and they continue on foot. Back in London, Joe continues her broadcasts, repeating promises of food and safety. Bill and Coker stumble upon a religious colony led by a woman named Mother Durand. There, Bill undergoes surgery to remove the bullet and begins to recover. Joe, meanwhile, learns the Triffids are drawing closer to the city each day, and she grows increasingly uneasy with Torrance's attentions at the monastery. Bill grows suspicious. The Triffids surrounding the colony aren't attacking. Mother Durand claims prayer is keeping them safe, but Bill suspects the cold weather is the real reason. Soon after, Father Thomas, a local priest, leaves to search for survivors. Later, Bill discovers his body chained to a tree. Durand had sacrificed him to the Triffids to keep them at bay. Furious, Bill returns to confront her. She defends her actions as necessary for the greater good, but the community silently condemns her. She walks away, insisting the colony won't survive without her leadership. Coker stays behind. Bill sets out alone to his father's house, believing it holds the key to stopping the Triffids. Joe begins digging for the truth about Bill and Coker. A young soldier, Troy, tells her that only Bill's tape recorder was found at the scene, sparking Joe's hope. She steals the device and secretly pre-records a new broadcast, one that exposes Torrance's lies. During dinner, while Torrance gloats, Joe's voice suddenly cuts through the airwaves, calling out his corruption and warning survivors that London isn't safe. Furious, Torrance orders her arrest, but Joe is already gone. Troy, now secretly helping her, misleads the search party and leaves her a flashlight. Joe escapes into the dark but soon stumbles into a Triffid ambush. She narrowly escapes by finding an abandoned diner and retrieving car keys from the dead owner. She flees in the vehicle, but crashes in the forest and is forced to continue on foot. Bill meets two orphaned, sighted girls, Imogen and Susan, who nearly attack him. Before realizing he's on their side, they give him their parents' car, and together they head to his father's home. That night, Joe is captured by a stranger who turns out to be Bill's father, Dennis. The next morning, Bill and the girls arrive at the house and are stunned to discover Joe alive. Dennis has protected his property with a powerful electric fence and invites them all to stay that evening. Dennis reveals his plan. He's genetically engineered a sterile female Triffid to neutralize the species. Bill is skeptical but agrees to help to complete the experiment. They need the head of a male Triffid. Bill takes his recorder and sets off for an abandoned plantation. Susan secretly follows and is nearly killed, but Bill saves her and successfully retrieves the sample. Dennis, recalling Bill's mother's belief that Triffids communicate, gives Bill her old tape recorder. Later, during the Triffids' violent pollination season, Dennis plays the new recordings to the female Triffid, but it becomes aggressive and fatally wounds him. Bill kills the creature, and with the experiment ruined, the group prepares to flee to the Isle of Wight, where leaflets promise safety. But that night, Torrance and his men storm the house. Torrance demands Bill develop a way to destroy the Triffids, threatening everyone's lives if he refuses. As he surveys the electric fence, Bill and the group secretly plan to escape by using the sound recordings. Once more, Susan hides the recorder outside. That night, the forest echoes with Triffid sounds, and the creatures gather. Torrance orders Troy to kill the children and activate the fence, but Troy rebels, fakes his death, and disables the controls as the Triffids breach the fence and slaughter Torrance's men. Bill knocks him unconscious. The group is trapped until Susan finds an old African mask. Bill remembers a tribal ritual where Triffid venom was dripped into the eyes to become one with the plants. He recreates it, dripping venom into everyone's eyes. It works. The Triffids now perceive them as their own. The group calmly walks through the swarming creatures. Torrance, panicking, fires wildly and is torn apart by the enraged plants. Bill, Joe, Susan, Imogen, and Troy escape to the Isle of Wight, safe for now. But as they settle in, Bill wonders if humanity will ever reclaim the world or if it even deserves to, because maybe the apocalypse didn't blind us, maybe we were blind long. In this, Elizabeth is happy remembering her star life, and with this she dies, and the story ends at this moment. Friends, if you liked the story, then like the video, and if you are new on the channel, then subscribe to the channel. Subscribe and hit the notification bell to be the first to get the next update.